Hey guys, Tarke here, and for today's SSF update, I'm going to be talking about evaluating your gear pieces, knowing what to upgrade, how much to invest into the upgrades, and then maybe giving some advice on how to go about upgrading your gear. I'm going to use my current character as an example. We're going to be talking through each slot, what I would do to improve that slot, and why I might want to prioritize or leave certain slots alone. So we'll start off with my wand, and also I should explain this is a non-crit pure fizz trapper. I'm using Seismic Trap, which is hit-based, and Exsanguinate is sort of like a hybrid hit dot-based. So that's the context of my character. Okay. So this is a wand I crafted myself. I use the Essence trick. Essence of Woe on eye level 1 wands. You have a very high chance of getting plus level skill gems, and you get decent spell damage from the Essence of Woe. That's exactly what I went for here. Got the spell damage, got the +1 of physical, and then I crafted trap throwing speed. This is a good enough wand that I don't need to worry about upgrading my weapons for a very long time. My eventual endgame, but at best and slot weapon, would be a cold iron point. Sorry, I have a piece of hair on my nose. And because I play SSF, I cannot guarantee if and when I'll ever get it. But because it's a dagger, it means at this point, I don't want to do any crafting on wands. So the reason why I say that is if I was to continue to try and upgrade using wands, and I spent a bunch of currency and I made a really cool wand, and eventually got a cold iron point drop, I can't dual wield a wand and a dagger at the same time, so that'd be a complete waste of me. Whereas if I happen to get a very good scepter or a very good dagger as a next weapon, and then I got the cold iron point, I could use both of those in conjunction. Now, because I'm a non-crit build, I don't really care about dagger or scepter implicit, so crafting those would be a waste of time. So I'm basically not going to bother crafting any weapons forever, basically, until I get my cold iron point, or I happen to identify something very usable. But hopefully that explains that sort of thought process a little bit. Moving on to my helmet. This would be a slot I would be looking to upgrade hopefully soon. So this is basically just a bunch of resistances. With crafted life. This is the best crafted life I have access to currently. Now, I'm overcapped for resistances. That's because I'm going for LE weakness cap on my character because I don't use curse removal and the flask changes. So my goals with this character is to get as much life as possible in each gear slot, maintain LE weakness cap, and if possible, also cap my chaos resistance. I like to cap my chaos resistance on as many characters as possible. We currently have 34 chaos res, which is good, but I would hope to get a better one. Like a better, higher than 34 would be my goal. So this is helping me somewhat with that. So it's got a whole bunch of cold res. It's got 55 cold res, but I'm well over the LE weakness cap with 136 cold res, so I could afford to lose a bunch of cold res. And it does give me some chaos res, but really 20 isn't all that high. And the life is very low. Honestly, a upgrade for this slot would really just be like tier 1 life. We're looking for like 100 life plus helmet with either some kind of defensive stat on there, maybe like a fizz taken as elemental, or going for an offensive stat, such as having like an influenced helmet and pseudo 5 links. If you had nearby enemies like took increased physical damage, that's very out there. That's not something I'd get anytime soon. Really, at this point, we're just looking for better life while maintaining a decent spread of resistances. Okay. And a way for me to craft that, outside of just trying to identify, would be using essences. And I'd probably actually use Chaos Res essences targeted on the helmet, since I currently don't need the Chaos Res essence for anything else on this character. Looking at my Amulet, this is probably something I'm not going to upgrade until we start getting to influence items, and that's also something that's worth talking about when it comes to like crafting certain slots. So let's say that I did have a good enough base eye level helmet that I could go for the enemies take increased physical damage. Now, it would be a bigger upgrade for me to get plus fizz gems on an Ami, or like fizz dot on an Ami. So I wouldn't want to be using currency that could help me craft towards my Amulet goal on the helmet. So if I wanted to use like fossils, for example, I purposely would save my fizz fossils for the Amulet craft because that's a more important project. I'll get a more noticeable increase. So when it comes to work out what you want to upgrade first, you also need to think about, am I investing into the slot with something which would be better spent on something else later? So yeah, so basically this amulet I won't replace until we start getting to influence bases, because it gives me enough life, it gives me enough stats, and it gives me a little bit of resistance. But I would be looking for eventually tier 1 life, plus physical skill gems, and then Fizz.multi would be nice, otherwise just resistances, and we're happy. My shield is a similar deal to the amulet. It's good enough until we start getting to influence bases. It has very high spell damage, so it's giving me a good chunk of damage, and it's giving me a okay amount of life with 2 very solid resistances. Sadly, the dex is wasted. It's also giving me a little bit of spell dodge because of the implicit. So this is like an all-around pretty good shield. And because it's got such a high spell damage roll on there, I don't feel the need to be dual wielding currently, which is very good, because as I said previously, my endgame weapon is a dagger, so I wouldn't want to be investing more currency into crafting wands at the moment anyway, because that is a waste because it's incompatible with my endgame gearing setup. So this is locked in. Maybe once we start getting influence bases, I might go for better, but that would be more of a final thing, final step. Let's talk about this ring. So this ring isn't a very good ring, but it has the endurance charge generation, and it's got the tier 1 life. So this is good enough for now. I could definitely craft a better ring, but that would be quite low priority for me, because I've got the most important stat on the ring, which is the life. Really, the thing which would make this ring better for me would be being on a better base. Even though I'm going for LE weakness cap, cold and lightning res, especially when I have such high cold res, isn't helping me towards this. My best in slot ring bases would be Vermilion rings for the percent life, Coral rings for the flat life, or Amethyst rings for the chaos res. Those are really the 3 bases I'd be looking to craft on. Otherwise, looking for like a vulnerability on hit ring would be very nice. So those would be the kind of things I'd be looking towards. So maybe I might run some delve just to try and get an easy vulnerability ring. But otherwise, I want to be looking towards going for the more important base items. Likewise for my other ring, but this would be something I'd be looking to prioritize upgrading much sooner, because this is literally just life and some resists. It doesn't have the value resistances on there like chaos res, and it doesn't have a unique unveil effect on there. So this would be something I'd be looking to upgrade hopefully quite soon. My body armor, we're basically locked into this body armor for the foreseeable future, because it's my only 6-link, and it's a 6-link on an evasion base in an invasion build. So this is very valuable. However, the actual stats on the chest aren't valuable at all. You're like, but it has 120 life and 16 chaos res, Tarke. That's amazing. I could get much better chaos res just by throwing some chaos fossils or chaos essences into this. So 16 chaos res isn't something I value. And 120 life, while decent, isn't actually that great, considering you can get like percent life on chest, and it's quite easy to get upwards of 100 life on chest. Really, what I should be looking to do to upgrade this chest piece is save up a bunch of chaos essences or chaos fossils, life fossils, stuff like that, and then look to get open prefixes, so that I can then use a Juncraft on there for either like spell dodge or percent life on top of 100 life. That would be a quite noticeable defensive increase there. We wouldn't go crazy investing, because we'd be wanting to wait until we got influence bases, and then we can be looking for like plus level skill gems, or alternatively saving fusings up to maybe like a Tinker skin or something. But that actually wouldn't be that great for this build, but that's a separate point. Let's go over to my gloves. So my gloves are actually very good gloves, but would also be quite easy to upgrade, and would probably be a relative priority. So they give me +2 level of socketed AoE gems, which is a +2 to my Seismic Trap, which is very strong. But the life isn't very great. Yes, it's got the hybrid life with the crafted life, so it's not terrible at 78 life, and it's got 2 okay resistances and a little bit of AoE, which is like, it's all decent, but it's on a hybrid armor evasion base, and the armor is wasted because I'm acrobatics, so it's a very low evasion base. The life could be better, and it's not that difficult for me to get good damage gloves. So you could look for physical damage every time multiplier from influence. You could be looking for running essences. There are shaper gloves. Shaper gloves have a whole bunch of trap supports on there. It'd be quite easy for me to get a decent shaper pair of gloves, and then look for like either getting the trap support gem, then I'd move my Exsanguinate from my chest into the gloves, move the seismic into the body armor, looking for advanced traps on the gloves, so I'd get the 5 link that way, and then I could craft plus 1 level of AoE gems on there. If I had like delirium essences even, I could maybe try and go for like delirium essence on the gloves, and maybe with shaper as well for getting some like 5-6 link glove action. There's actually quite a lot we could go there. And all of the currency that I would use to craft those sort of things doesn't really compete with the currency I need to craft on other slots. Like, for example, the Delirium Essence doesn't compete with stuff I need elsewhere. And if I was to spec my Atlas to farm for essences to get Delirium Essences for gloves, those essences would also help me craft other slots. So it looks like farming some Essence Atlas would be quite good for me. And yeah, that seems like a good investment of my time. My belt is an okay belt. And this would actually be a very easy item for me to replace currently. So if I was to replace this belt right now, it doesn't really mess with my any weakness cap. Like, I just need to get barely 10 resistance on anything, and I'm back to any weakness cap. I'm still positive chaos res, and yes, it's got the tier 1 life, and yes, it's got the fizz damage from the implicit, which is all great for my pure physical build. But we could be looking for a Stygian Vise, and then we could be getting that fizz damage there, then getting some additional flat life, maybe getting some additional resistances, or getting some fun buffs like phasing generation or something. We could be looking at an influence base, and then with an influence base, we could get more powerful modifiers like percent life or something. We could even just be looking for a leather belt base, because honestly, I'd rather have an additional 40 flat life than 20% physical damage. The other thing which is very important here is, as a trap build, essences of zeal is that's not zeal. Essences of that's not zeal. This zeal? This is zeal. Essences of zeal are very strong on belts. They give increased trap and mine throwing speed, and you can stack this with the crafted trap throwing speed, Syndicate craft. So yeah, considering we don't really need any of the stats on this belt that much, we could very easily just pick up a Stygian Vise, throw a couple of Essence of Zeals on there, and then with this screaming 13% with the crafted like 10% on top, we'd suddenly gain 20% trap throwing speed, which would be a very noticeable increase into my overall mapping speed and my single target damage potential. So that would be a very big priority, and I can upgrade this piece without really messing with the rest of my gear. And then finally, my Zeri Step. They're not the best roll at Zeri Step. They have good life, but they've got the low spell damage roll. But they're a good enough pair of Zeri Steps. I'm probably not going to replace these for a very long time, if ever. These are probably going to be locked into my character for at least a week or so. So I should be looking to do some Uberlab and getting some decent boot enchants. And in the process of trying to hunt down a decent boot enchant, it's very likely that I'd actually get a workable helm enchant because of the amount of skill gems I use in this build. We currently use 7 different main skills. When you count all my utility stuff in there, and there's lots of other gems I could be using, like Enduring Cry or whatever that I'm not. If I had enchants for, I would use. So yeah, hopefully that whole process was kind of helpful. The main things you want to be looking for is kind of like, okay, do you need certain Alva modifiers? Well, then maybe spec your Atlas for Alva stuff. Do you need certain Jund modifiers, spec for that, essences, etc. Work through your gear. Work out what's holding you back, what would be good to upgrade, but while thinking about that, also think, would crafting this item delay future crafting projects? And for example, using the Essence of Zeal on the belt, the Essence of Zeal doesn't clash with anything else. Like, I'm not using currency that could be best spent on the Amulet, using the whole like Jagged Fossil example. So yeah, think about that stuff. Best of luck upgrading your gear. I just realized my cam has been off for this entire thing. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.